Why study Spanish? Discover the world. Deciding to learn Spanish is one of the best decisions you can make if you want to travel and see the world. More than 400 million people around the globe speak Spanish. After Chinese, English, and Spanish are tied as the two most frequently spoken languages worldwide. Spanish is now the third most used language on the internet. In Europe, Spanish is the most popular foreign language after English. People who speak both Spanish and English can communicate with people from all around the globe, no matter where they find themselves. Explore your community. Inside the United States, Spanish is by far the most widely spoken language after English. There are currently about 30 million Spanish speakers in the U.S. When you start to look and listen for it, you will quickly realize that Spanish is all around you, on the television, on the radio, and in magazines and newspapers. You may even hear your neighbors speaking it. Learning Spanish will help you communicate and interact with the rapidly growing communities of Spanish speakers around you. Experience a new perspective. Learning a language is more than just memorizing words and structures. When you study Spanish, you learn how the people who speak it think, feel, work, and live. Learning a language can open your eyes to a whole new world of ideas and insights. And as you learn about other cultures, you gain a better perspective on your own. Create career possibilities. Knowing Spanish opens many doors. If you speak Spanish fluently, you can work for international and multinational companies anywhere in the Spanish-speaking world. You can create a career working as a translator, an interpreter, or a teacher of Spanish. And because the number of Spanish speakers in the U.S. is growing so rapidly, being able to communicate in Spanish is becoming important in almost every career. What is vocabulary? Building your Spanish vocabulary. Vocabulary is a basic building block for learning a foreign language. By learning just a few words, you can start to communicate in Spanish right away. You will probably find that it is easier to understand words you hear or read than it is to use them yourself. But with a little practice, you will start to produce the right words in the right context. Soon you will be able to carry on conversations with other Spanish speakers. How do I study vocabulary? First steps. Read all of the new words in blue on the vocabulary presentation page in your textbook. Point to each word as you say it out loud. Be creative. Make flashcards with your new vocabulary words. You could also draw pictures of the words on the back of the flashcards. Group vocabulary words by theme. Add other words that fit the categories you've learned. Imagine a picture of the word. Create a rhyme or song to help you remember the words. Make it personal. Use vocabulary words to write original sentences. Make them funny so you'll be sure to remember. Label everyday items in Spanish. Create reminders for difficult words. Put note cards inside your locker door or on your mirror at home. See it and say it to yourself. For example, if you are learning colors and clothing words, think of the Spanish word to describe what your friends are wearing. Practice makes perfect. Say your vocabulary words out loud and repeat each word several times. Write each word 5 times, keeping its meaning in mind. Use Spanish words with your classmates outside of class. If you're having lunch in the cafeteria, use the words you know for food. Greet your classmates in the hallway in Spanish. Create your own system. Practice a little bit every day. Many short sessions are better than one long one. Focus on the words that are the hardest for you. Find a buddy. Quiz one another on the vocabulary words. Keep a vocabulary notebook and update it regularly. Use the study sheets in the back of your workbook to review vocabulary. What is grammar? Some people think of grammar as the rules of a language, rules that tell you the correct way to speak a language. For instance, why do you say big red house, not red big house? Why do you say how much money do you have instead of how many money? If English is your first language, you probably don't think about the rule. You make the correct choice instinctively because it sounds right. Non-native speakers of English have to learn the rules. As you begin your study of Spanish, you will need to learn the grammar rules of Spanish. Why should I study grammar? Grammar helps you to communicate. For instance, using the past tense or future tense makes it clear when something happens. I did my homework versus I will do my homework. Using subject pronouns lets you know who is performing the action. I gave the book to her versus she gave the book to me. Using correct grammar when speaking Spanish will help you communicate successfully with native speakers of Spanish. How do I study grammar? Read the English Grammar Connection before each grammar explanation. Think about how you use the same type of grammar in English. Understanding your own language will help you to better understand Spanish. English Grammar Connection. A verb tense is the form of the verb that shows when an action is happening. The present tense shows that an action is happening now. The Spanish present tense verb form estudiamos can be expressed in English in 3 different ways. We are studying or we do study. We study Spanish. Present tense verb. Estudiamos español. Present tense verb. Practice the new forms that you are learning. Completing the practice activities in your student book and workbook will help you to learn the correct way to say things. Use the Spanish you know as often as you can. After all, that's how you learn to speak English, by hearing and speaking it every day. What is culture? To communicate with people from Spanish-speaking countries in a meaningful way, you need to know something about their culture. Vocabulary and grammar will help you learn what words to say and how to put them together, but culture will give you a better understanding of how, when, and why to say what to whom. What exactly is culture? Culture includes art history, traditions, relationships, music, holidays, food, architecture, pastimes, and more. How can I learn about another culture? Read the Comparación Cultural information to find out more about the cultures that you are studying. Think about the answers to the questions in the Comparación Cultural. Think about the perspectives and practices that shape and influence the culture. Compare your own culture with the cultures you are studying.